Hey everybody, this is the Iron Sun, and I have a couple of things I want to talk about. In fact, I kind of just want to, I don't know, just focus on my voice. I'd rather you not focus on what I look like. So these are the things I have to talk about. So the title is "Don't Bother Women with Your Problems." So recently I had a live stream and it was kind of cool, I guess, but a lot of the issues I wanted to talk about regarding men and regarding women, I kind of didn't really have time to go into those things. And during the live stream and after the live stream, I learned important lessons just in the process of setting up things, in the process of just things that I think between the sexes, I can kind of see certain mechanisms that are making it difficult for for any reconciliation, any type of collaboration to continue between the sexes on a positive. So the red pill movement, at least the gender red pill movement, is doing really good. There's a lot of good things coming out of it, in my opinion. You have guys going to the gym more often. You have guys learning about female nature in a way that most men in the past were not familiar with. They didn't really understand it. Um, so I wanted to get into a couple of things like subtle emasculation. Um, so there's the feminist movement uses uh, small phrasing in order to manipulate men. One of those ways is, men should be more emotional. There's posts on Facebook about men being more emotional and how men should show emotions, and we should raise little boys to be more emotional. Um, what's sad is that this doesn't really honor the male condition. It doesn't honor the male need to solve problems. This drive to do this. Now, where I would say, where you would have a person just actively saying, "Hey, you have been like shaming a man for having feelings or shaming a boy for having feelings," then I would agree with you. But beyond that, it really doesn't have any bearing on the male condition. The male condition, naturally, males are seen as like heads, the leaders of their family, uh, generally speaking. So the amount of emotion that males can express compared to the average female, and that same dynamic is going to look different. And just take that away and go to another aspect. Men largely thrive on succeeding, thrive on solving problems. This is, in fact, is how their brain is wired. The brain is the problem-solving brain. It it's wired to solve problems. You could say that this is caused by the differential amount of testosterone in a utero given to males versus females, and also the effect on the brain, which um, to go further into that, I'd have to go into neurobiology, and I really don't mind it. But what I've learned so far is that the male brain is an action-oriented, problem-solving brain. At the greatest extreme, this looks like Asperger's and autism, which, you know, I'm starting to think there's kind of an OCD component to the autistic side, but then Asperger's, what you see with those individuals, incredibly gifted, and smart, but not very well socially calibrated, which generally speaking, even the average male isn't really socially calibrated at first. I think it has to be learned. You do get guys that are super charismatic, but yeah. So this is what I've learned, and this is just what I've done for a while. I've gone out and done surveys. I've talked to people. I've talked to women. I've talked to men. Tried to understand the condition of things. Try to understand where we're going, how we do things, and see if we can get an understanding of why males and females do certain things. And what I've discovered just in listening to women and men is that people don't really people don't really think a lot of these things through distance. They're just kind of, it's like if I was in the ocean talking to other people about, hey man, you realize that we're surrounded by water? Most people be like, I haven't really thought about that. It's kind of an interesting thought. I just kind of go where I need to go. um, yeah. So with that, I'm going to cover a couple of things. So I think past traumas block collaboration between the sexes. Any type of positive collaboration where the females would hear what the men have to say, and the men would hear what the women have to say is being blocked. I think it's actively being blocked. I don't know who is doing it, how it's being done, but you have the issue that individual males and females in large clusters are actively going against the other side merely for the fact that they've had experiences that are very negative with the other side. Natural response, right? Or at least a response you would expect from someone. Um, how to mitigate that? I think you can move past trauma. I think I don't know. I think there's a collective effort to keep that trauma going hard, and long as possible. I'm not exactly sure on how to get rid of that, but that's what I see um, in a lot of the interviews or a lot of the questions I'd ask women. Some of the questions were instantly traumatizing, and I really couldn't pick up on it at first. But I've noticed that I don't know. It's weird with women. So you get the ones that are a little less social. Well, I think they're all fairly socially calibrated. But with women, it's kind of hard to know if you hurt them a lot of times. And this may just be me. Maybe I'm not as socially calibrated as I would like to think I am. But um, sometimes one of the things I appreciate about men to a degree about us is that, at least in general, you kind of know, it's easier to know what ground you stand on when you're talking to a man. You know, um, you pretty much know where you're at. It's a linear process. But with women, and a lot of the issues that I brought up and talked about to a lot of women, and this would be at university, this would be a grocery store, this would be, pretty much anywhere I would go, I would ask questions. And there would be fairly along the same line of questioning just to see, um, just to kind of gauge where the social where women were at socially and how they viewed men on a biological level, stuff like that. A lot of various questions. Um, and even to the present day when I've had like guest speakers who are females and stuff like that on my show. Like I had a speaker on recently, and this is just what I'm thinking. I think a lot of the issues that I wanted to talk about, that I kind of continually want to talk about regarding men and women, to women. I think a lot of times women get triggered just by the idea that the guy has something that he doesn't like about women, or has something like, perhaps, let's say, accountability. So let's say there's an instance where a guy can't hold a woman accountable. Guys get triggered, or women get triggered by the very idea that the guy has an issue with a woman. And I guess the basis would be, well, women are perfect. You shouldn't have issues with women, because if you have issues with women, then that's really an issue that you have with yourself. Like saying, like, the fact that you're having an issue with a woman is an indication of you and your, let's say the law of correspondence, and then you attract what you are kind of principle, which, in my opinion, it mainly applies to women. Because at the end of the day, yes, the guy can meditate and, he can attract what he is, so to speak, but he still has to go out and talk to a woman. Um, at the end of all the woo woo magic and thinking, magical thinking stuff, which, look, I'm not saying the law of correspondence and even the the principles of the universe are wrong. But one of the main principles of the universe, or at least a very important aspect of the universe, is yin and yang, or put another way, um, push and pull, kui and ma. We are so masculine and feminine, and these two elements put together kind of adds a really cool texture to life, and it makes life, and I would say it makes life make sense. Those two aspects of life is what makes life worth living. You have men who represent the masculine, who represent the young, women who represent the feminine, that is the yin energy. So with men, men tend to be more yang, and women tend to be more yin. Now there are variances and exceptions, but I kind of just had to make that a point because one of the frustrations I have with a lot of females that I have a conversation with, they they speak about things in exceptions. They speak about things in instances, which makes it difficult. I think it makes it difficult for a lot of guys because a lot of guys process information like they're building concepts. Women process information like they're sifting through concepts. So what do I mean by that? So this is just a general thing that I've noticed. Whenever you speak to a woman on a topic, especially if it's related to gender or economics or just anything that is abstract, um, a lot of times, a lot of times the information kind of gets distilled into her level of knowledge and to uh, her her instance of that information. So what I mean is, um, maybe there's something she can think of offhand. That offhand thought leads to another thought that she can think of, which leads to another thought, and then oh, look, hey, maybe this is the thing, like a general idea. But guys, whenever they're having a conversation, generally speaking, they're using concepts and axioms that are already in existence. So, the law of supply and demand, for example. Just bring up the law of supply and demand and talk about the economy to a woman. I think you might actually end up seeing what I mean, unless she's autistic, in which case she'll probably go tit for tat with you. But I don't know. Um, I'm kind of getting into my frustrations with communicating with the opposite sex when you're speaking in generalization. Um, Women are very intuitive, and intuition has its own gifts, and it extends well beyond anything we could imagine. Um, but the great difficulty with intuitive people, namely women, is that introducing a way of thought or just speaking to them on a general subject is incredibly hard, um, for many reasons. And I think what makes it easier is ethos, having a certain degree of credibility behind your name, because women, in my opinion, they seem to have a very submissive train of thought just in general, and this is kind of why a lot of times they will desire, and you have men that do this as well. There's some men that do this, where they need to have someone who is above them in order to listen to what they're saying. And it's ironic, right? Because it's like they claim that they want to be equal to men, but if a man was the equal of a woman, then he would really have no say in that relationship, which is, I think that's bad. Um, Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, a lot of people in the truther community and just in the know of what's going on, the belief is that individual sovereignty is extremely important. And I guess by saying we all need to search for sovereignty, being with the sovereign being, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I don't think it's bullshit, but I think they're just level two things. Women like taller guys. They like guys who are better than them. They like guys who have more money. They like guys who are more influential, who are more social, who are basically dominant in every aspect of life that they are not. Um, Now, if a guy is just as dominant or just as good, um, she'll she'll take him. But I'm just saying, like, they're wired to find that bigger, better option. And in a way, men kind of want to. I think the male version of hypergamy is just wanting to go and wanting to go and have sex with a lot of women. Um, Even if you're in a committed relationship, which I think that's just nature. I'm not telling you to go and cheat. I'm just saying. Um, so here's so this kind of gets to the main point of the video. Men who reveal their frustrations with women only further emasculate themselves. So this is what I mean. Yeah, women in the feminist movement are telling you can, yeah, go ahead and cry, go ahead and feel and stuff like that. Here's the issue. A lot of times you end up losing respect from those very women just by doing that. And you can even, if you do it too often, if you tell them your problems too often, you can even destroy the polarity between you and the woman you're dating, or the woman if you're married, the woman you're married to, your wife, your girlfriend. You could end up destroying that polarity and her actually being completely turned off just by being around you. So she ends up starting to look at you as a friend. Um, I think so. I have a thought. Um, Emotional incest. I think it's a similar thread, and that's why I bring it up. With emotional incest, you have a lot of times you have boys and you have girls. Now, with the boys, you would call it a son husband, and this would be where a boy is being confided in by his mother to the point where he loses his childhood, and to the point where the mom starts giving him so much things to think about how she's feeling, as if the boy was a partner, to where the boy feels guilty and the boy starts to kind of take on the role that the mother's partner would actually be needing to fulfill. Um, a lot of boys have been dealing with this. I'd imagine daughters have had to deal with this as well. This this is something that's extremely important. Um, but I think the threat is a child should never have to. So this is where it connects, I believe. A child should never have to sit and deal with all the problems of an adult, of their parents. They shouldn't have to face these things. The child shouldn't have to be forced to listen to all the pain and all the issues you're going through in order to soothe and help you emotionally cope with your problem. It's a child. The child needs to be free to live, to experience life, and to be protected by you. The child ends up feeling like it's the protector when it has to confide, when you have to confide in the child often. See, and that I'm kind of demonstrating that polarity shift. That's probably a similar thread with men and women. When you confide in a woman too much, you destroy that polarity. She's no longer attracted to you in the way that a woman wants to be attracted to a man. A woman wants to know that a man is like a champion. He solves problems. He gets things done. This makes her feel safe. Now, where things have been getting difficult, I think, is that we're kind of mishandling the condition of male men and women in various different ways. We're telling women to be strong when really women don't want to be strong, or at least the women who want to be strong are weak in many different ways and just compensating for those weaknesses by appearing strong. That's a different story altogether. I would say that goes into animus possession, but I'm not going to go there right now. So the truther movement So before I go into that topic, so men who reveal their frustrations to women uh, constantly, they only further emasculate themselves and end up just self. Basically, it's the best way to obliterate any attraction between you and the woman. You'll become her friend, and she'll slowly just fade away from you. Do that at your own risk. I'm just letting you know that's what that causes. Um, so the truther movement is cut. This is what I mean by this. For the men who are out there on the front lines doing a lot of great and important things, good, because we're going to need that going forward. What I mean by the truther movement is cut is that um, certain aspects of the truther movement kind of there's some aspects of it that kind of have this gender bias where it's like, oh, look at women. Women are doing this. Women are doing that. It kind of ends up doing the same thing that what the deep state was doing to uh, women and men for ages. You know, pitting us against each other. You have some channels where men, and these are men I regard highly, that are saying, "Hey, man, what are you men doing out there? You know, we got women doing this, and if the women can do it, wow, I'm really teed off that you're not doing it." Like that's a really sad way to go. It doesn't really show an understanding of what's going on in the country, how much the men have been demoralized and have been emasculated. I'm not saying we should make excuses, but we should definitely understand what we're dealing with, and we should prevent these issues. And one of the methods, if you actually want us to galvanize men, for the men who are kind of pushing that, hey men, why? For the men who are out there pushing that, hey men, look, these women are doing it, you guys are pussies. That message. Only thing I have to say to you is, look, the stuff that you're doing, that is actually helping out with the fight and the issues that are going on right now. Great, you know, more power to you. But with the gender thing, just stay the fuck out of that, because what you're saying isn't really, it's not really gonna get, it's not really gonna galvanize any men. You're just gonna piss them off. You're just gonna make them dig their heels in. It doesn't really help. It's stupid. You're just capitulating and you're supplicating to the women on your channel, especially. I don't have to name them, but there's a couple of women who are in the truther community, and you hear about them all the time. It's like, look, men, look what these women are doing. And you can't do it. Like, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. Look, we need more men out there. It's like, yes, we do need more men out there, but we also need less shaming out there, because that's not really going to bring anyone together. Just like trauma is not going to bring people together, or at least not the way, you know, not the way we want it to. Um, so a lot of men have been in the dark on a lot of these issues. There's some men who are really manly men, like, you know, but they don't understand female nature. Again, I would call them, again, blue pill alphas. They're very good and very masculine at what they do and have a masculine presence, but they're still kind of cut by their own wives, by their own girlfriends, stuff like that. So they're kind of still trapped. They're in the matrix, but they're slightly outside of it, right? Because Matrix, in a way, didn't succeed in making them less manly. It didn't succeed in making them feminine, but it did succeed in that they're still being controlled by women. They're still, basically, their women are still the alpha in a way, which it doesn't make sense to call a woman an alpha in a relationship, but or at least not in the way that society views it. But I'm not going to go into that on this one. Um, so, well, I will go into it a little bit. So, just to reiterate, the alpha for male is masculine. A woman in her true alpha state is feminine. Femininity is the alpha state for female. So I'm saying this based off of what men are generally attracted to and what women are generally attracted to. The average woman is generally attracted to a very masculine and strong man. Now, the average man is generally attracted to a very feminine and nurturing woman. Based off of the attraction, you flip those roles in both of the sexes, and the desire for either would be lessened significantly. So that's what I base off of what we consider alpha males versus alpha females. And I think it's partly due to energy. Opposites attract. Men generally are more masculine, women are typically more yin. So the opposite polarity will create the largest boom, I guess is how I'll say that. So I want to say two more things and then I'm done. But one thing is, and I recognize people have a very short attention span, so I'm probably going to have to make shorter tips. So the one thing I want to say is, don't bother going and talking to women and seeing what they believe. Don't bother trying to get women to understand how you feel. Don't bother. Um, you want people to know your pain, to know what you feel, to understand the condition of a man. Especially the women. They don't care. Even if they did care, for the ones that do care, it still, in a way, only serves to make you end up still like likely being, it can still emasculate you. Um, Honestly, and especially the dudes who kind of are in their negative loop where they're saying, "Well, I can't express emotion, I have to be macho." That kind of, stay away from that. That'll lead to bad things. You'll probably try to opt yourself. Go around a guy who can at least allow you to share your emotions to a small degree. Now, most of your issues you're just gonna have to deal with yourself. That's just part of being a man. I don't I don't really know what to tell you there. This is just what I've gathered being on the earth plane for the short amount of time I have. I've learned that there's not a lot of there's really not a lot of help, because if you want to go see a therapist, most of the therapists and what a psychologist, they're probably going to be female. There's a good chance they're mainly going to be females, and if you're talking to a female therapist, you're probably just going to further emasculate yourself, and you're going to feel weak to talking about it. Even if they don't say that you're weak for the things that you say, just talking to them, just looking at their micro expressions will probably make you feel like a weak, sad fuck. Um, just saying. Do you want to process things emotionally? I mean, everyone has their own different methods. I would say most guys are probably kinesthetic in terms of how they process emotions. But then, um, everybody has a different method of doing it. But don't let anyone shame you, if you're a man, especially. But women as well. Don't let anyone shame you. That's kind of negative. Like if they're saying in order for you to be a man or be a woman, something like that, you have to do this. That's a good sign. You need to stay away from that person, or just you know find a different circle. This is just my opinion, and I kind of want to say, um, I built this channel. Interestingly, the reason why I made this channel is because I actually want to help guys who grew up in single mother households. Um, there's not really a lot of resources to help um, guys who came up out of those households, and there wasn't a lot of there's still not a lot of talk about the effects, the emasculation, the feeling of defeat, those kind of things. And I think ultimately the best way to deal with those things is to succeed, to find your corner, find your area, and succeed. I think continual success will kind of overshadow those scars. Now, I don't think the scars will go away because for some reason there really is a lot of guys in the West. There's kind of just this kind of battered energy, or guys just have this like one arm bleeding kind of mindset, kind of like Gohan, or it's like he's got one arm and he's clutching. He's like, I don't think I can hack it. I think that's the state of a lot of guys. They're still strong, they're still aggressive inside, but everything, a lot of forces in society are working against guys. And a lot of forces are working against women, but I think the women are misjudging what those forces are and are kind of have been blind to it for a long time because I think they've been propagandized since the 60s, since the late, since the early 60s, and they're still not out of what they've been put in for a very long time. But the guys have been witnessing it and seeing their fathers get worked over and watching the whole system from the outside, trying to warn the women about what's going on. The women aren't having any of it. So I say don't try to don't try to don't try to give them the answer. Don't try to solve the problem. The only thing that'll solve the problem is waiting until it hits the fan. Because a lot of women, you try to tell them the issue with how you're feeling as a man, and the issue with a lot of things that's going on just systematically, and they end up taking it. They end up being offended by that, which is right. It's kind of amazing, right? Like everything that you're talking about that has nothing to do with them, they find out a way to make it have to be. They find out a way. They somehow always find out a way to link it back to them and blame you for it. Um, and here's the thing: you got guys that do that as well, but I see this condition as more rampant in women. Um, Now, if I'm proven wrong in the future, so be it. But the solution is the same whether you're a guy or a woman, and that is accountability. That's easier said than done. I'm saying a lot of words, and I'll come back on the video. So I'm saying a lot of words, but really accountability, dealing with our own personal traumas, and then yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got to do. And a lot of the collaborations that need to be had with men and women who are of a sound mind could be had. Um, yeah, that's actually all I got. Um, I hope this helps. By the way, I'm not claiming to have all the answers, but I have thought about a lot of these things pretty thoroughly, and I think I have some insights for them.